Part 6, Buttonholes, Side Seams and Hem Ruffle. I've decided to put my buttonholes in first, and I've already done it here. Just a very quick reminder where they need to go. A centimetre below the collar stand, then each one of them 6 centimetres apart. And the top buttonhole should be in line with those vertical ones. Then you do the side seam first. Again, we are going to do a French seam. The seam allowance is 5 millimeters. So you sew that down first and then you cut back the seam allowance. And then you turn the whole lot and you kind of finger iron it down. You can use a proper iron obviously, but I just finger iron it because it is not necessary and it's so much quicker to just do it with your fingers. So just give it a good run down with your nail. Then pin it again, and we're doing a 5 millimeter seam allowance. When you've sewn this, you will see how beautiful that is on the outside. You shouldn't be seeing any frayed ends or anything. Now we're going to tackle the hem ruffle with ribbon finish. So it was a bit dark. I'm doing a narrow ruled edge hem here, which means that you turn in the fabric and then you turn it in again. And it's only about 3 or 4 millimeters, so it's really slim. And once you've done that, it looks a little bit like this. And then we're just going to turn in one of the edges here. So turn in and over. And you can put a pin in there. It could just be held by a tack, or you could just sew down that side. That's up to you really. Then you insert your gather threads, and on one side you just don't even turn it in, you just leave it as it is. So now we're starting to put the ruffle on the right side of the fabric here, as you can see me do, and it's now that I adjust my ruffles. In fact, I'll only do it for the very beginning there, and then I actually put it straight under the sewing machine and I adjust my ruffles underneath there. That is so much easier than trying to do it all before. And then of course when you get to the end, whatever the end is, you might have quite a bit of ruffle left, in fact, if you don't ruffle too tightly. Then you turn it in twice, and that way you don't have to be so accurate. Then you take a ribbon, and that is going to be slotted in there and folded over the top. So you take another pin and make sure that that's secure. And then we're going to pin this one all the way along. But it is quite important that you have got the blouse itself flat underneath it, so you don't get any pleats in there. When that's all pinned, we're now ready to sew the top edge, and you'll see in a minute why we do the top edge first. I'm using this triple stitch again, which is like a jersey stitch normally, which gives you stretch, this is not why I'm using it here, I'm just simply using it for effect. Now this is quite a difficult technique, and you could just overlock the ruffle and then turn it up, that would be okay as well. But if you wanted to get an effect, that's really, really nice. If you don't have an overlocker, this is perfect. So you do it all the way along, so it looks like this. And now we're going to sew from the outside to secure the lower bit of the ribbon. But to make sure that that can't go anywhere and we have no pleats, we again pin it. Just a few pins all the way along the edge there, so it can't go anywhere. And then we'll put it underneath the sewing machine, and again we'll stitch it down. And really important is there the distance, again, that you keep the distance the same, and I'm using the same distance on the whole shirt. For me it's like that little line that I can see through the plastic, so where the plastic goes to the metal, I'm just taking exactly half of that, and I'm very used to that distance. So whatever distance you feel comfortable with, that's what you use, and it looks really great. So now the ruffle is attached and you can't even see any seaming, and it looks absolutely beautiful whether you have an overlocker or serger or not. Next I'm going to put in my buttons, so the buttons are alternating. I like to do that just to give it a little bit of interest, and now I need to sew them on. So how do you do that? You take a needle, double thread, go straight through the middle of your opened up buttonhole, and then wherever that pin is, you will secure your thread. That will be slightly over to the right and it'll look like it's not in the middle, but it's perfectly correct. Otherwise the lower placket will be visible when you do it up. So this is the way to do it. When you're sewing them on, always have a finger in between your button so that when you've gone through 3 or 4 times, you actually got a nice little mushroom there. We called it a mushroom when I was studying, so that you've got space for the upper placket to go somewhere so it doesn't look so pushed down. And there we have it, almost done.